everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a bit more of a serious video, not the kind of videos I would usually make, but it's about a heavily debated topic in the bird community. You may have already guessed what it is, but for those who haven't, to clip or not to clip. Now, I've managed to get a few familiar faces in this video that you guys may recognize.
Hello, Paws, Paws and Feathers fans!
Hey guys, Emily and Bogey here.
But before we get into all of that, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss any of our videos. As you know, I don't post regularly, so if you want to see things from me, hit the bell, you will know when I release. So to start this video, we actually need to ask the basic question of, what is clipping? For those of you that don't know, wing clipping is the act of cutting a bird's feathers to restrict flight. Why would people do this? Well, there are many reasons, and I found that the most common one is actually to tame your bird. A lot of people seem to believe that if you cut your bird's feathers, they won't be able to get away from you and therefore will get used to you much faster. Yaz from Gotham City Parrots over on Instagram and on YouTube free flies 2 Alexandrians and her green macaw, but she has 4 Alexandrians, her green wing, and an African grey parrot altogether, and she intends to fly all of them. Before getting into free flight, she had a Derbian parakeet. I'm not too sure on the species, but anyway, she had one of those, and her name was Coco. Now, Yaz clipped Coco in an effort to tame her, as this is what a lot of sources online tell you to do. So Yaz, was Coco more tame in the end of the birds that you have now? Do you think that clipping helped her?
Coco wasn't tame at all from clipping her wings. It made her very depressed and it made her extremely aggressive. I'm pretty confident that clipping Coco is the reason she died so soon after me buying her. She kept falling from her perches whenever I approached, trying to fly away from me, and she would just hit the ground. I truly think that if she wasn't clipped, she would have gone on to free fly like I have with Joker, and she probably wouldn't have died, and she would be doing as well as my other birds are doing now. Clipping is what took that away from her.
As I said before, people clip for many different reasons, and another reason is a lot of people think that clipping their bird keeps them safe. The reason people think this is because clipping their bird means their bird cannot fly, right? So their bird can't fly into windows, can't fly into walls, they can't fly outdoors, which in their eyes is keeping the animal safe. Now, alternatively, there's also a lot of people that don't clip birds that get them, and they manage to keep their birds safe as well. A perfect example of this is Shelby the macaw, a lovely blue and gold macaw who you may know from the app TikTok, or even their Instagram, or their Facebook, or their YouTube. So Shelby is now a free-flighted macaw and actually flies outdoors most days. However, going by what people say, surely not clipping Shelby must have meant she hurt herself a lot indoors by flying into walls or windows. So Shelby's parents, why have you never considered clipping Shelby? Is it not safer for Shelby to be clipped?
Hi guys! Basically, there's a couple of reasons we never considered clipping. And first of all, we would never have got a bird if we didn't want a pet that could fly. So why disable her by taking away the one thing that makes her feel safe, that is part of her natural instinct? Secondly of all, there's a massive misconception that clipped birds can't fly. And in fact, they can fly and they will fly because that's their natural instinct. Their natural tendency is to fly. And they're more likely to get themselves into danger, more likely to hurt themselves, more likely to have an accident if they're trying to fly with wings that are damaged. Therefore, clipping was never a solution for us. Instead, we worked hard on diet and training instead, and bonding. And that's how we ended up where we are today. I'd much rather a fully flighted bird that is fully in control of her body and her wings, that is safe and able to fly, than one that is disabled, one that we have removed the ability to fly from, because it's not going to stop them from flying, they still will try. That is one of the many reasons we decided against clipping, and that is the reason why today we have a very happy, healthy Shelby.
So on top of clipping your bird to tame them or to keep them safe, clipping is also thought to be a cure for hormones. All of us who have owned birds know that at a certain point in the bird's life, they suffer from birdie mother nature. Sadly, it is difficult for us to deal with it. Our birds suddenly start biting us, they start getting a little bit heightened, they're louder, they're lunging at us randomly, and there is not much we can do about it. So many people think that the right thing to do is to clip their bird, because their bird can't hurt them then, right? Some of you may know Falan from Parrot Voluntary over on Instagram and YouTube and even Patreon. Over a year ago, Falan rescued an abused cockatoo from a pretty horrific situation. On top of having many behavioural issues due to the way that he was kept, he was also extremely hormonal. And what does this mean? Trouble on 2 legs. The mighty Havoc. Now, Falan, many people would have clipped him upon getting him just due to the issues he was dealing with. What did you do instead?
When we first got Havoc, he was totally helpless. He was petrified, and he really didn't know how to do much besides pace back and forth. As he learned how to fly, he became more confident, more muscular, and just more like a real cockatoo. When he started trying to attack me, I knew from research that the most likely reason for this was reproductive hormones. For male cockatoos especially, breeding mode can mean aggression. Clipping is not the answer. I've heard people call clipping an attitude adjustment. I've even heard people say the bird lost their flight privileges. It's just bizarre. Can a dog lose the privilege of using their legs if they misbehave? Maybe you don't see it as a punishment. Maybe you just see it as a way to prevent them from attacking. But look, if we choose to have a parrot, it's our responsibility to understand and modify their behavior. So what else can you do? Well, if the aggression is due to raging hormones, it's all about keeping that bird out of breeding mode. With Havoc, I eliminated any sugary or high-protein foods. I cut back on pellets, which are actually really nutrient-dense and great for raising babies. And I also really challenge him to work for his food. I definitely don't cuddle him all over his body because that would signal to him that I want to be his mate. And I also rearrange his cage a lot since static environments can encourage a bird to settle down and nest. Havoc doesn't just look calm because he's stuck there and able to fly. He really is behaving himself. Rehabilitating Havoc has been one of my biggest challenges. And of course, we still have our difficulties from time to time. But I am so happy I rose to this occasion.
Good boy.
I hope Havoc's story will inspire others to work through their birds' behavioral issues with husbandry and training, rather than clipping their wings.
So why are so many people against wing clipping? I mean, feathers are just like hair, right? I don't feel it when my hair is cut. They don't feel it when their feathers are cut, do they? The only difference is birds use their feathers as the primary method of locomotion. What I mean is a bird's feathers help them with movement, and obviously movement is very important. Essentially, if I was to cut my hair right now, I wouldn't feel any different. My balance wouldn't be off. You know what? I actually need a haircut right now. Oh, that feels so much better now. And look, my balance is not impacted whatsoever. And I've had a decent amount of hair taken off. Hair really isn't like feathers. If you cut your bird's wings, their balance will be altered because you are altering their bodies. They use their wings to help them with movement. Our hair just sits there. Wing clipping can also cause a lot of health issues and even something called muscle atrophy. So what is muscle atrophy, you ask? So I answer. Muscle atrophy is the wastage of muscles over time due to them not being used. I mean, have you ever broken a bone? Or do you know someone who has broken a bone? They would have had to go through physiotherapy to build that muscle back up. The exact same thing can happen to clipbirds. Some of you guys may know Shanna, better known as Bird Tales over on TikTok and on Instagram. Shanna runs a bird rescue and they have seen many cases of birds with muscle atrophy, which they have worked with. They have themselves rehabilitated at least 6 birds with atrophy, and a couple of those birds have never been adopted out. Shanna actually kept them. One of these birds is Princess.
This is Princess. She is my 13-year-old orange-winged Amazon. Princess came to me a few years ago, and apparently she had been clipped most of her life. She was only clipped what people call a proper clip, which is only the first 4 primary feathers. But unfortunately, that still impacted her health negatively. Because Princess had fallen a few times, she was afraid to fly, and it took a long time to build her confidence back up. Unfortunately, because she was stationary for so long, she developed muscle atrophy and fatty liver disease. Although Princess is flying now and has an amazing diet, she still does suffer from the effects of the fatty liver disease. Her beak grows extremely fast and is constantly needing to be worn down with a Dremel. When her fatty liver disease flares up, she starts chewing this part of her chest, often making it extremely bare. Clipping a bird's wings is not like cutting someone's hair. They use it to move, and unfortunately, when we alter that, it can lead to a lot of health problems, both physically and mentally. Please means alter your environment to suit your bird, not alter your bird to suit your environment.
Most of the time, feathers do grow back after clipping, which is an amazing thing. The issue is, sometimes they don't, and other times they take a long time. Usually, feathers will grow back after a molt. A molt takes about a year for most birds, sometimes even longer. You guys know Mikey the Macaw over on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Obviously, if you know Mikey the Macaw, you know Mia. Mia came from also quite a bad background, and she had an awful wing clip. One of these feathers took almost 2 years to grow back in. To be honest, Daddy Human and Mummy Human were starting to think it was never going to return. And while discussing Mia, what was the difference between training a fully flighted Mikey and a clipped Mia when you first got them?
Training Mikey and Mia to fly were drastically different. It was crazy. When we first got Mia, she literally had zero balance. Even trying to hold on to her, she'd have to have her wings open at all times to make her feel like she wasn't going to kind of fall over. It was extremely hard teaching her due to the fact she had such a horrible clip when we did get her. When we asked her to recall to us, she literally had zero confidence at all. She had no idea that flapping her wings would give her lift. Every time she ever did try and fly was out of fear, and she'd usually crash land and hurt herself. So her confidence was massively knocked. Now, because she hadn't flown a lot, she also didn't have the muscle capacity that a flighted bird would have had. So even in the early stages of getting her to recall, we'd literally stay at distances like this big and just really encourage her. I think it took about 3 months for her to take her very first leap. And once that happened, it was a little bit more smooth sailing. It did take a bit of time for her to build up the stamina, the fitness, to have those muscles grow back, to have the strength to do recalls slightly longer than just a couple of meters. But it was such a challenge, obviously extremely rewarding that she is in the sky now, but in the early days of that, it was extremely frustrating. Just kind of seeing how stunted her confidence was, being altered unnaturally, I mean, against her will, even before she knew what flight was. So that was a huge difference training her compared to Mikey, as when we got Mikey, he was fully feathered, he knew what flight was. For any of you out there who are thinking about clipping, it is going to massively affect your bird physically and mentally. It's going to postpone any kind of training you want to do, whether it's trust building, flight, anything like that. And if you want a happy and healthy bird, seriously, just let them be the way they were born.
Nowadays, individuals are choosing to train their birds instead of clipping them. And this can be fun, but it can also be insanely frustrating. I mean, birds are really smart animals, and sometimes they can outsmart us. Being so intelligent can make them really tricky to work with, but it can also give you amazing results. Sophie from Chip Fish and Friends over on Instagram and on YouTube adores training her birds. She adopted a few of her birds, and as they were rescues, they came with a few funky issues. She was able to fix a lot of these without having to clip their wings. If you follow these guys on Instagram, you'll see how amazingly trained her birds are. So Sophie, why did you choose to train your birds over clipping?
The great thing about choosing training over clipping wings is you're giving your bird a choice. In the wild, birds make choices and decisions every day about where to fly to, who to interact with, and what to eat, which is really mentally stimulating. But under human care, many of these choices are made for them, especially when their wings are clipped, which means that they don't necessarily have a choice about how they can fly or where they can fly to, and also they're more dependent on their owner. When you choose to train your bird, you'll be communicating in the same language, and you'll be allowing them to decide to participate in the training, and also deciding where to fly to within reason, and of course whether to interact with you or not. So when Chip Fish and the conures are having their out of cage time, we give them loads of different options. They can fly around if they want to, interact with us, have a cuddle, have floor toys, and we find that giving them the option and the choice to go where they want to and do what they want is actually really enriching for them, and they get more out of their experience of their out of cage time. So respecting your bird's choices through training allows you to make a really meaningful bond with your bird, and allows you to build it on trust and positive interaction.
So as you can see, training is absolutely fantastic. Not only can it help you with these pesky behaviours, but it can also stimulate your bird, so it's kind of a win-win. Believe it or not, clipping your bird can actually lead to mental health problems, because like us, birds can suffer from them. I discussed at the beginning of the video that birds use flight for transport, but they also use it for fun. Now, clipped birds can't fly as well, or can't fly at all, and therefore all of this energy is pent up within them and turns to frustration, naturally. So this frustration can lead to many problems, including plucking. On top of that, the bird now has so much energy within them, and they have to let it out somehow. And the most common way to release pent up energy for a bird is through screaming. Yeah, screaming. You guys probably know Elle from Elle and the Lovely Birds. If you know her, you know that Elle has a cockatiel called Ducky. When she got Ducky, Ducky was very badly clipped, to the point that she couldn't fly. She couldn't get from point A to point B. This lack of flight meant that she wasn't able to get the energy out, and therefore she turned into a loud bird. So Elle, did Ducky stop screaming when she regained her flight? Was there a difference from her being clipped and her being flighted?
Ducky, come! Good bird! Since Ducky became flighted, she basically hasn't had the screaming problem at all anymore. It basically just completely went away. It was only a thing that she had when she was a baby and when she was clipped. In addition to the screaming problem that Ducky had when she was clipped, she also did not let me put her down on any kind of other surface. She had to be on me 24/7. She was completely dependent on me, and if I even just tried to put her down on a play gym, she would be anxious the entire time. She wouldn't play with her toys, she'd just be pacing back and forth, and she'd often try to jump off. Ducky was clipped really bad, so when she tried to jump off of a surface like a play gym or on top of her cage, she would often land really weird. She would kind of crash on the floor, and at one point she actually broke every single one of her tail feathers. Luckily, Ducky became fully flighted after her first molt, and she regrew all of her tail feathers, and she's actually never broken a single tail feather since then.
Just 50 years ago, clipping was considered normality. That's right, 50 years ago. Now, luckily, we are learning better thanks to science. Every day new information is coming out about, how a bird should live. Thanks to that, less and less vets are pushing for clipping. And to be honest, the ones that still do tend to be old-fashioned vets that are very set in their ways, and non-avian vets. In other words, vets that see birds but aren't qualified to technically treat birds. I've been extremely lucky to be able to get in contact with Becky, who is an avian vet and also a director for Parrot Trust Scotland. Parrot Trust Scotland is an amazing rescue up here, so if you guys are looking for birds, definitely check them out. Becky has actually been working with this rescue for 2.5 years. So Becky, why do you think that all over the world, vets are becoming more and more pro-flight and are starting to urge people not to clip?
The main reason that we don't agree with wing clipping in parrots is thinking of the experience through the perspective of the bird. Birds that are clipped do not have the option to escape noxious stimuli, and they're often fearful and nervous. They're unable to say yes or no by a natural means, and they depend on their human more so than other birds. Not being able to fly teaches them that they have a limited choice in scary situations and increases their feelings of fear and helplessness. Often people think that a bird who's had its wings clipped will be safer to take outside, but actually they can still escape and they'll be less likely to be able to get away from predators. Severe wing clips or poorly done wing clips can lead to helplessness, lack of confidence, poor balance on your hand, feather mutilation, plucking, sharp feather ends causing irritation, keel injuries from falling, as well as lots of other issues. And the lack of flight also means that the caudal thoracic air sacs are not fully emptied, so the bird can be more predisposed to respiratory infections, as well as obviously being more likely to be overweight and unfit. This is one of many reasons that I don't agree with wing clipping.
Did you know that a lot of people who are now pro-flight used to be pro-clip? I mean, we used to be, believe it or not, and now I wouldn't do that to any of my birds. It is perfectly okay to change your mindset due to new information that you find. This needs to be normalized. We need to learn to change our opinions after finding out new facts. Research is being done every single day about parrots still, and we're still learning. Everybody is still learning every single day. Don't be stuck in your ways. Learn to change to better your feather friends. An incredible example of change is that of Bogey and his owner Emily. You guys might know Bogey as he is a little bit of an Instagram celebrity. This feisty little gala. Bogey was once a clipped bird, but he's now a free flyer and he is loving life in California and getting to fly in so many different locations. Emily, why did you clip his wings and what made you change your mind?
I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet. Our story began 2 years ago when I impulse bought Bogey. Went into the pet store thinking I was gonna get a budgie, and I came out with Bogey. Really not the best way to do things, but that's one of many mistakes I made when I first got Bogey. The other being that his wings were clipped, and I continuously clipped his wings for the first, 4 months I had him. I clipped his wings because I had a very traumatic experience with a cockatiel flying away, and we found the cockatiel's feathers in my neighbor's yard a few weeks later, and I assumed that all birds flew away. I didn't know that if you did recall training and you allowed your bird to fly, then they would actually know how to fly. I thought by clipping Bogey's wings, I would keep him safe and that I would prolong his life. I changed my mind because of two big reasons. So the first being our amazing community online, I think is the biggest reason why I decided to let Bogey grow his wings out. There's so many amazing examples of free flight. There's so many people who just allow their birds to fly in their house. There's so many people that show you what recall training is. So just the amount of education that I gained from this community really helped open my eyes to what is right for our feathered friends. And the second being, and I really want to kind of throw myself under the bus here, the second being my own intentions, questioning my own intentions. So why did I really want Bogey's wings to be clipped? Okay, so the first reason being to keep him safe. Once I learned that you can actually recall train your bird, I was like, wow, that's gonna be really hard. I have to switch his diet. That sounds like such a pain. I don't know if I can do it. It must just be easier to have their wings clipped. And also, Bogey was like this little star on Instagram, and we'd go out and do all these fun things with his wings clipped because he couldn't go anywhere. So I knew that I was giving that up too. Like, okay, we're not gonna go shopping, we're not gonna go get a Starbucks coffee, we're not gonna go do those things that we used to like do. And once I kind of figured that one out, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna make him miserable because I want cute content. I would encourage you guys, if your bird's wings are clipped, to do the same thing as I do. Educate yourself and look at other people that have the same species of birds that you do. Think about your own intentions and why you want your bird's wings to be clipped. Having your wings clipped does way more damage than good, and that's basically what we've discovered in the 2 years of knowing each other. So I hope our little story helps, and I hope you guys have a great day.
I'm hoping that all of you who have watched this video have enjoyed it and maybe even learned something. Clipping is still a hugely debated issue in the parrot community, and there's new research coming out daily, like I keep saying. If you're wanting to learn more, because there's always more to learn, there's a website called Parrot Volancy that is absolutely amazing and discusses everything you need to know and has scientific proof backed up with it. So if you want to read that, I'll pop it in the description for you guys. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of the lovely parrot people who have made this video a reality. I have planned this video for quite a while now, and I am so happy that I'm finally able to release it. So thank you guys, you are truly amazing. And hopefully together we can help save a few birds. And thank you to everyone who has watched this video, because you know what? Without you guys, there would be no reason for us to make it. So thank you so much. I would absolutely love if you guys could give this video a thumbs up and maybe link it to people who are inquiring about this huge debate in the parrot community. And you know, if you liked what you see, maybe subscribe, check out the other guys' channels as well because they're amazing. And well, I'll see you guys at the next video. Bye!